Baltimore. He was back in Baltimore again, back at the home of Hugh and Sophia Auld. Hugh Auld got Frederick a job in a nearby shipyard. Frederick was good with his hands. Soon he was earning top wages. But every Saturday Frederick had to give all the money he earned to Master Hugh. Once in a while, when Frederick earned $6, Master Hugh gave Frederick back 6 cents. Other blacks worked in the shipyard, too. Most were slaves, but a few of them were free. They were not owned by other men. Some had been given their freedom by a kind master. Some had been born free. Their parents had not been slaves. Some had been allowed to work in their free time. When they saved up enough money, they had been allowed to buy themselves free. Most of these free Negroes belonged to a club called the East Baltimore Mutual Improvement Society. Once a week, they got together to read and write and study. Frederick was a slave, but he could read and write. They asked him to join the club. At one of the meetings, Frederick met a girl. Her name was Anna Murray. She was tall and slim and very beautiful. "May I walk you home tonight?" Frederick asked. Anna said nothing. She was very shy, but she nodded yes. Frederick walked Anna Murray home often after that. He always had a lot to talk about. Anna was a good listener. They fell more and more in love. Frederick's luck had certainly changed. He had a good job. He was well treated. He was in love, but something seemed to be troubling him. "What's the matter, honey?" Anna asked one night. "I've got freedom on my mind," Frederick answered. He was planning again to escape. This time Frederick decided to go alone. He had learned that it was safer this way, but he still needed help, so he turned to his friend Stanley. Stanley was a free Negro. He could go wherever he wanted, but he had to carry a free paper to prove that he was not a slave. Frederick borrowed Stanley's free paper. "I'll mail it back to you," he promised, "just as soon as I get free." Frederick had many close friends in Baltimore, but he did not tell them of his plan. When will I ever see them again? Frederick wondered. He knew that the answer was probably never. Frederick Douglass said later that to leave his friends was the most painful decision he had to make. As the day of the escape drew near, Frederick became more and more nervous. This was his second escape attempt. It had better succeed. He might not get another. If he were caught, Frederick knew he would be punished severely. Probably he would be sent far, far away to work on the rice and cotton plantations of Louisiana or Alabama. Escape was almost impossible from there. Later, Frederick Douglass wrote about this time in his life. He said, "It was life and death with me." September 3rd, 1838 was a working day, but Frederick did not go to work. He went to Stanley's house instead. Stanley was a sailor. He gave Frederick a sailor's red shirt and a black waterproof hat. Frederick tied a sailor's kerchief around his neck. Then he went to the railroad station and climbed on a train heading north. But he wasn't safe yet. The train was still in a slave state. What if somebody looked at the paper in his pocket too carefully? What if somebody asked him too many questions? What if somebody recognized him in spite of these sailor's clothes? Frederick had never been on a train before. He had never traveled so fast. But he whispered, "Faster, go faster." Then it happened. The train stopped in a station. Frederick got off the train to stretch his legs. He found himself staring straight into the eyes of someone he knew. Fred Stein was a white man. He would know that Frederick was running away. Would he turn him in? Frederick wanted to run. He wanted to hide, but his legs felt like jelly. His feet felt like lead. All he could do was stand there and stare. For a long time Fred Stein stared back. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away. "He's a good man," Frederick thought. "He won't turn me in." Frederick climbed back on the train. The train kept on going north, but it seemed to go so slowly. Each minute seemed like an hour. Each hour took forever to pass. Finally, the train reached New York City. He jumped off. Frederick stared up at the sky. That was a free sky up there. He stared down at his feet. That was free ground he was standing on. He took a deep breath. That was free air he was breathing. He was free at last.